Hello, today we are soldering. We are soldering a sensor board breakout, one I've recently designed. I don't think I've shared it on the channel because there wasn't really much to cover. So today I'm just going to assemble it, see what the process is and how we're going to actually do it. We're going to do a method of reflow soldering using this product over here, the MHP30. It is a tiny little preheater device that is wonderfully built and made. I'm actually really impressed with the build quality of this, and I've just received it in the post today. This was sent by PCBWay, and this was very kind of them to send, along with the boards I've recently got made for the sensor boards. So we'll be testing this out today, and I'm really excited to get this done. But first, let's clean our workspace. Great, now that it's marginally better, we can continue going through with it. It's not just, I'm only going to part assemble the boards with this item because I do want to practice some hand soldering, but for the parts that I do want to assemble, I will be testing it. I want to see how well we can actually get this device to work with, see what we can do with it. So let's get started on this. As mentioned before, the MH330 was sponsored by PCBWay, and I am more than happy to say that I'm extremely quite happy with the product, as you'll find later on in the video. Really satisfied with how the build quality is and what it is capable of doing. It's absolutely small, it fits in the palm of your hand and such, and honestly I only have positive things to say about this. For boards like for this size, you can see it's a 30 by 30 millimeter. I think it gets the job just right if you have a board this size. PCBWay, as you probably all have heard, they do offer PCB prototype and assembly, as well as various other CNC, 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication. It's absolutely incredible what they do offer. Having made boards with them and having them assemble it, I was always been happy with the result. Any issues or problems, they've helped me every step of the way, even especially with their 3D printing stuff. Having used it for work, I was quite impressed with how much they've helped me going through the layers and see what is it. They would never put out something that would guarantee a failure, or maybe something wouldn't work. They would have let me know. And you know, as someone with not much 3D printing experience, I'm really glad they do this. Hats off to PCBWay. Please do check them out. So we have our stencil here. One thing to note is that you can get a stencil in a framework or a non-framework, I believe. They're called, I've accidentally ordered the framework. So we have this large kind of item here. It's like almost like a picture frame. I guess it's where the name stems from. What we're going to do is that we're going to paste this on top. So it's the wrong way around. We're going to paste this here, plonk it on like so. As you can see, the SMD pads here do match the holes over here. Plonk it on like that. We're going to tape it all across. You can use any regular tape, whatever your preference is. And we're going to flip it over the other side, and we're going to apply some solder paste to it. Then we're going to chuck it on our heat, our little device over here. Place the board that we are interested in. Once we've soldered it, use the paste and whatever, put it on, and yeah, we're going to just preheat or reflow the part of the board we're interested in. For this, we're just going to reflow this section here, so the light sensor bit. So this is a light sensor here. We have a gyroscope, accelerometer, pretty expensive part. It was like $6 US. I didn't get it ordered. And we have a popular barometric sensor or something. It was for gas sensing. I can't remember the name of it now, but it was quite expensive also. I didn't really bother with it because I had it on another board. But I'm guessing these two parts I'm going to practice with an airflow gun. I say practice in the relatively expensive parts. I'm not sure if it's the brightest idea really. But we can also try and reflow this, see how well it reflows with, you know, a part that's already done reflow, I suppose. So who knows, maybe we can place it right here or in the corner and see how well that does to reflow certain parts if we need to, but we'll get around to it. I just want to check with these two parts. You know, it's always one thing I've always wanted to show on this channel, and it's that the mistakes I make and, you know, things I want to do, cannot do, and things of that sort. And I think I've got this one the wrong way around, to be honest. So, but we make do. So I've taped it on the other side of the door. You can see the outline of the components. If I flip it over, you could see I've just taped the board itself. Again, this was made by PCBWay. Absolutely fantastic. I'm really happy with the quality these boards came out with. So I'm gonna start putting on the solder paste. You can use any card, so I'm using this card. You may notice the graphics if you live in the UK, but I've decided to cover them up. So what I'm going to do is put some solder paste on and basically use this as a squeegee and just cover it up like that. Should paste just fine, and we should just get an even layer all around. I'm going to cover up everything because I'm curious to see how it all goes, and as well, if it just reflows, I'm not too bothered. We can clean it up. Really don't mind it. And if it's already there, then we can maybe try and hot air gun some of the other components that I fancy too. But I'll try and just do this small section here, just so we can do that. Give it a quick over, and yeah, we'll see from there. So we have our solder paste here. We can simply squirt a bit on to get target area which we want to solder. So maybe. And what we're going to do is simply wipe it over. So if you remember before, I've taped it. So I'm going to just you could just reuse a stencil whenever you want to as well. Not a big deal. So after that, I am done. I'm happy with this result. We can visually inspect it, and we can be quite happy with how it is. No, we don't really have any complaints. So we're gonna remove it. So I flipped the board over, and I'm just gonna carefully remove it. One thing is, you do not want to kind of like drag it off or anything, because you have solder paste on the other side. Had I did this the right way around, I could have lifted the stencil off instead. But of course I did not do that. I just did it with the board. And it's one thing I always want to do in this channel is show the mistakes that I make as well, so you can avoid it. I think it's the best way to learn. As a smart man learns from his own mistakes, but a wise man learns from the mistakes of others. Along that quote or something. I think that's how the quote goes. Once we're coming to peel this off, just peeling off all the tape. So now with this, we're just gonna lift it up. You can see some of the parts have been pasted over. You could see we have put some solder paste on some parts rather than others, but we have done so. So now what we're gonna do, and we're gonna get our components and start placing them. So I looked at prior. I've got the circuit in front of me, so I'm just going to place these components. I have these books, these sample books. These are absolutely great. I highly recommend everyone should have something of the sort here, because when you're like me and you haven't ordered parts and whatnot, you have these sample books, in which generally for the projects that we do, they come in pretty handy. Ideally, I would like a lot more, so I'll probably be getting like another set of pure capacitor value. So this one is a resistor value. So it's mainly resistor for 0603. Have this other one so for 042. But ideally, I would like something for capacitors and both sides, as those are the sizes I typically commonly use. Also, when you have these tape reels, it's nice that you mark something to say that what size of it, because if you have a lot of them, it's easy to quite get easily lost and such, speaking from experience. So now that we have our board fully complete, soldered up, let's get reflowing. So it's going to start heating to 200 as the preset. This reflows at 230, so I'm going to set it to 250 because it still has some, I'm guessing it has some mass to actually go through. So I'm set it to 240 for now. So again, this whole surface area is going to be heated up, so when you do take it off, do be careful with this, but we should see it heating up shortly. There is like a reflow pattern, things you could follow and whatnot with this kind of stuff. If you look at the back of the data sheet, it shows a reflow curve almost. So that's what we're looking at here. So I've had to play around with the settings a bit, but we can see the solder starting to more or less reflow now, which is really quite exciting and quite good actually. I'm well impressed by this. We can see that this part has reflowed quite well. I'm just increasing the heat up a bit more just to, I'm more or less concerned about this part here because it still seems a bit blobby still, so we'll see about that. Took it off now. I'm just trying to move the components to see if everything is done, and honestly it seems really good. It seems everything is okay. I guess you do need a bit of practice runs with these, but it seems 270 would do the trick for our case. I mean, you can still see here that some of these haven't really solidified, but that's just because the heat hasn't reached. So I'm going to put this to one side now before I burn myself with it. I know it's not zooming in as much, so I'm just going to have a quick look at it. No, it seems it's reflow. I'm quite surprised. I'm really impressed with this. Can solder some pins up and we'll go from there. So I've linked it up to an ESP8266 and I'm just using an I2C scanner, as you can see here. And looks like we have found an address at 0x29. And if we look at the datasheet, the address of our sensor 0x29 for this specific temperature, this specific light sensor. So we can confirm that it has been soldered up properly. We have found the address, it works, we are good to go with it. I did a bit more soldering on these parts here, just the resistors, for a bit more practice. I need to get these things soldered up and everything, but really pleased with the outcome. So overall, I'm really happy with the result, and that's all I wanted to clarify, because I really had trouble hand soldering this sensor on, but I'm glad it was all sorted in the end, that we got it done. Can clean this board up a bit with flux residue that's been left behind, but really it's nothing too bad. Could touch it up a bit more. Really glad with the result. Yeah, and to see how we can actually start reflowing our board using this simple off-the-shelf unit. I have a review of the full device in a separate video, and overcoming what the device, instead of me just briefly going over certain things in this video. I have a full review there if you're interested, and I'll leave it down. So I do hope that was something you've learned on reflowing and making up a board entirely, so moving forward to the future we can do a lot more with our projects and such.